So he then started talking about the procedure to me and saying, look, I've got to make an incision in between your ribs, and I've got to wind it open with my little finger and then put the tube in. And it could hurt a bit. We've got to get moving. And I can remember thinking, why are you telling me? Just do it. Yeah. And that must have been me subconsciously knowing that, you know,
life or death.
This is serious, because it was only about a minute after that I then died for the first time.
Here we go. This podcast I've been massively excited about. It's someone that I've been wanting to have a chat with for a long time. He's done a few podcasts before, but his story is absolutely amazing, and it's a career that I wanted to follow. So I've got a lot of questions. I've got with me today Tony Hayes.
Good to be here.
How you doing, mate? You right?
Yeah, very good, mate. Nice
Sorry
to meet
for
you.
the wait.
No, not at all. Not at all. Been looking forward to it.
So how's the journey up here? Okay.
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, it's first time in this neck of the woods.
In Liverpool, yeah.
Yeah.
How was the journey?
No, it was good.
Yeah.
It was good. And to be fair, actually, I probably have been here before. Just can't remember it.
Yeah.
You know what it's like in the back of transit vans.
Where'd you travel from today?
Poole.
Yeah,
sunny Poole and Bournemouth, Dorset.
You've always been there, yeah?
No. So originally from London.
Yeah.
And then it was the military that pulled me out of London.
And that was the Marines, Royal Marines.
That was the Marines, yeah.
Can't say Marines, can you? It's got to be Royal Marines.
It's yeah, no.
I always get
I'm not too
corrected,
bothered.
isn't that? It's Royal.
No, I'm not that precious.
Oh, right. Okay. And how long did you serve in the Marines?
So the Marines was 2 years. So I'd done basic training, obviously, at Livingston. First posting was 4-2 Commando in Plymouth.
Yep.
And I was in Plymouth just over 2 years. So it was more or less 2 years, two and a bit years.
Yeah.
And
That's Exeter, St David's, isn't it?
No, so Exeter's, I think, closer to Livingston.
Ah, right, okay.
And yeah, no, to 4-2's Plymouth.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah, and I was there for about 2 years and done selection and passed, and then was posted at Poole.
Right, okay.
And was there for the rest of my career.
And that's where you based yourself with the family and everything, yeah?
Yes, mate. Yeah. So we didn't look back. So when I left when I left the military, we stayed in Poole and sort of set roots down there.
Settle down there, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you've got you've had an extensive military career, which is like to anyone, UK Special Forces that's where everyone wants to be. Every soldier, every infantry wants to go SF. But you had an exceptional time before you joined the forces, didn't you? You had a near-death experience. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people have got their things that they've experienced, and it doesn't necessarily. You can't really say that someone has had a worse experience than someone else because it's a personal thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And someone could have something that is perceived to has not been as bad an experience as someone else, but it could have affected them more, you know. But yeah, I went through something, I suppose, that luckily, certainly a lot of people that I know haven't had to deal with, and I was 15 years old, living in South London, and ended up getting stabbed 9 times in one sitting. It was in a shopping centre in the middle of the day. We ended up getting surrounded, and the knife that the lad had was one of those walking sticks that where you can screw the handle off.
Oh, right, yeah.
So it was effectively a short sword, but it had the handle that sort of goes dog legs sort of 90 degrees.
So it was like
you could hold it like a gun.
Yeah.
So he was able to punch. So instead of like if your hands cocked that way round and you're stabbing, whereas if you're holding it like
There's
a
more
fist,
power behind it.
yeah, and you could get the speed behind it. So yeah, but as you know, sort of punches and kicks were getting thrown to me front because there was I don't know how many there were. There was 15 plus.
And were you on your own?
No, with one other friend. But he was dragged on the outside of the crowd, so they were focusing mainly on me, and he got dragged away, CS'd in the face. So he was kind of out of the game anyway.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, I was waking up because 9 holes in a matter of seconds.
It's a lot of blood.
So a lot of blood just getting pumped out, and it was just lights out. So yeah, I woke up. They'd gone, and my mate was, managed to pick me up off of the ground.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was it. That was me done.
And what provoked that? Anything that provoked that, or it was just because we have obviously with stabbings and stuff, and especially around Liverpool, there's a lot of stabbings, and most of it is gang. I mean, it's gang related.
Yeah.
And they move in groups like that as well. Did something happen before then to provoke it, you think, or?
Yeah. So it was the school that I was in was it was an inner city school.
Yeah.
And just because it was in South London doesn't mean anything. And any big city around the whole of the UK are going to have similar similar areas and similar schools. And there was an altercation with me and another boy at school, and basically, I noticed someone being bullied, and I stood up to the bully for the bloke that was being bullied, because I hate bullies.
Yeah.
And he ended up getting in my face, and so I smacked him one.
Good effort.
But he then went running to his cousins and brothers and older brothers who then got cousins involved, so on and so forth.
Because he couldn't handle it himself.
Say again?
Because he couldn't handle it himself.
He couldn't handle it himself. No. So I then ended up hearing through other people that there's this big crowd of lads looking for me.
Yeah.
I didn't quite know what it was about, and for years afterwards, I didn't make the connection. I don't know why. I just didn't give it a thought. But yeah, the connection was made for the crowd that was looking for me. Sorry, but a little bit of time had passed. So with the stabbing incident, I didn't make the connection that it was that same crowd. If you see what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was. So they persisted in looking for me, and they effectively created a net in the shopping centre because they found out somehow that I walked through there every now and again to get to a mate's house.
Right.
And as we was entering one day, I could see in front of me that there was a group of lads, and you could tell straight away that they were up to no good.
Yeah.
And they were from one side of the walkway to the other.
Did you know then that they were for you, or? No,
still didn't know. I just thought, it was South London. You get groups and gangs, quite often. And I could see that even, mums and, other people, old people, just general population milling about doing their shopping were having to try and squeeze past. Some people were even turning around and trying to go the other way. So it was like, oh, Jesus Christ, here we go. But I thought, right, we can't sort of turn around, be one of those people turning around, because we're potentially going to stand out of being young lads as well.
Yeah.
Last thing I wanted was to be noticed as being weak, So I thought, right, don't sort of be over aggressive or try to, bite off more you can chew. And
well, let like a show of force, let them know that your presence, that you're not scared.
Exactly, yeah. But at the same time, there was a lot of them, so it was just you know, be confident. You're going where you're going,
Yeah.
and just try and find a gap and slip through. Turn your shoulders and slip through. So it's exactly what I tried to do, find a gap. But sure enough, as I was walking through them, I started getting quite a bit of attention, and there was some things getting said. But again, I didn't make the connection that they were looking for me, and they kind of must have been figuring it out if I was that person or not.
Yeah, weighing you up as well.
Yeah. So as I got through the other end, I sort of looked around, and sure enough, they were all looking at me.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'm not going to sort of stoop down to it. And there's too many of them anyway. It was only me and one other lad. So we kept walking, thinking, hopefully that's it. You know, I've walked away, create some distance. It was quite busy.
Yeah.
So there was quite a big crowd. So it took a couple of minutes, but as I kept checking me six, if you like, I could see these heads popping up in the crowd every now and again.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like, we're being followed.
Yeah. Did you realise then it was you?
No, we realised we were being followed, and I just thought that it was because they didn't like the look of us.
Yeah.
And you know yourself, it doesn't take much.
No.
You know, people are getting shot and stabbed just for stepping on someone's foot.
Or standing on someone's doorstep or on their ground or their turf, as you like to call it.
Exactly, yeah. So I thought, you know, that's why it is that I didn't back down. I walked through them.
Yeah.
I might have brushed past one of them, and so in my head, I knew that that's all it could take.
Yeah.
So it was like, it's confirmed. We're getting followed for whatever reason. They're going to want to start on us.
Yeah.
So let's you know, figure out what we're going to do here. We need to get on our toes somehow.
Yeah.
So the mate that I was with said, well, look, let's dive in the last shop before the exit doors.
Yeah.
Hopefully they won't see us, and just wait for them to go past. So as we dived into the shop, it didn't take long for the security guard to sort of be like, what are you two up to?
Yeah.
We were behind the coat racks, sort of just trying to peer through the coats.
Yeah.
So the security guard came up to us and was like, lads, you know, do one. I was like, shit, okay, right, our time's up. We're going to have to, hopefully it's been long enough.
Yeah.
As soon as we walked back out, boom, they were on us.
Really?
And sort of semicircle, surrounded. My back was against the wall. And that was it. Yeah, I sort of said to him, look, lads, what's this all about?
Yeah.
And within sort of a matter of seconds, punches started getting thrown. As I was sort of trying to deal with that, blocking, flailing out, doing whatever I could with that happening. Obviously, I had them all around me. So the guy on my left side here was the one with the knife.
Yeah.
And so as I was dealing with stuff to the front, he was just...
And did you feel it? Or was the adrenaline fired? You just...
It happened so quickly, I didn't really feel it, but I knew something was going on.
Yeah.
And as I turned around, the one thing that I remember is his eyes. And I looked, because he was right there, and I looked into his eyes, and it was just pure anger.
Yeah.
And he must have been on something as well, because I can remember they were quite glassed over.
Yeah.
But I just kind of sort of pushed away and was almost saying, right, get off of me.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was the last I remember.
They almost have legged it. And
They must have legged it afterwards.
did anyone else, the public, anything intervene, or was it just it was that fast?
It was that fast, and they were known for causing trouble in the area. They were sort of, some of the shops were scared of them because they were known, basically. So
Terrorising everyone.
Yeah, so none of the public wanted to get involved.
Yeah. Because then the altercations of it coming to their doorstep as well.
Yeah.
So you blacked out, obviously, from the loss of blood, and you woke up in the hospital?
No. So it must have only been a couple of seconds, really. It hit the ground, was out, and not sure how long it was for, but I can't imagine it was for long. And came around and stood up. My mate was there with me. And as I looked down, I could only see my leg on the front of my thigh.
Yeah.
So it was 3 stab wounds to the front of the thigh.
Yeah.
3 to just below the back.
Yeah.
The sort of top of the arse area. And then 3 up in the chest area. But I couldn't see, I wasn't sort of looking down here. And I couldn't see the puncture marks through my jacket anyway. I could only see the front of my thigh. So I thought, sweet, okay, they've just done me in my leg. Felt a bit of a fanny, really, passing out just because I've been stabbed a couple of
That's
times
the
in the
first
leg.
thing comes to mind, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
And I thought, but it was relief.
Yeah.
You know, okay, you know, it's just maybe they've only used a penknife or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And even though there was a river of blood, it's still, I was still thinking, bloody hell, that's a lot of blood. But the panic hadn't quite set in.
Yeah, your adrenaline's still up
Adrenaline's
there, like,
still up there. And because I could see the wounds on the front of my thigh and thinking that that's all it was,
yeah,
that kind of settled me down a little bit. But my mate I went to turn around stupidly and sort of go after them, because in my mind it's like, well, I haven't finished yet.
Yeah.
They might be running off, but I'm still here. I woke back up. Come on, let's carry on. My mate was like, you ain't going nowhere, and sort of walked me back around and took me back into the shop that we was originally in. And as we walked in, my mate was like, you know, my mate's been stabbed. My mate's been stabbed. Help, help. The security guard could see all
is
of the
this
blood.
the same shop that you were told to get out of?
Yeah, same shop. And the security guard saw all of the blood, and he must have saw what was going on as well.
Yeah.
And he was like, get back out. You're bleeding all over the clothes. You're going to have to get back
A
out.
priority, yeah.
And so my mate turned me back around, and that was it then. I couldn't, I was like, look, I'm struggling to breathe. And I must have been sort of wobbling a bit as well. And he sat me down outside the shop. And that's when I waited for the ambulance to turn up.
Yeah.
So someone must have called them, and I think someone else must have come out the shop and said, look, there's an ambulance on the way.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was still feeling okay at the time. I said that, you know, my head was starting to feel a bit woozy,
From the lack of blood, yeah.
the loss of blood, and I was starting to struggle with breathing.
Yeah.
And didn't know at the time, but that was the punctured lung, because with the chest wound, the knife, because it was effectively a short sword,
Yeah, yeah.
it went through my arm, all the way through from this side, out underneath the armpit, in through the chest, scratched me heart on the way in.
Wow.
And punctured me lung. So that's why I was then starting to find it hard to breathe. Once the ambulance crew turned up, you could see that they was in panic.
Yeah.
And they got me into the ambulance. I was called in as a DOA, dead on arrival. But me mum was on duty at the time as a nurse in casualty at the local hospital.
A&E.
In Lewisham Hospital, yeah. So she had to get told, like, you're going to have to come off duty. And she's like, what are you talking about? It's like, your son's coming in and he's been stabbed. So that was, you know, looking back on that's quite difficult, because for me, myself, and you'll know this yourself, you can handle the hardship, you know, if it's looking back on stuff that's happened to you. But when you think of how it must have emotionally impacted other people, it sort of pulls on your heartstrings, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it must have been horrendous for her.
But it's like on tour, isn't it? You go on tour, you go on operations and stuff, go abroad, and you like, oh yeah, I'm abroad, and then you're on operations and things go off, people get hurt and stuff like that. But in your head, you're like, I'm coping all right.
Yeah.
But then you got your parents, your loved ones back home, and they're in the same fight as you. They just can't see it. And sometimes to me, I think that's worse, because they don't know what you're going through, but they know you're going through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, hats off to your mum for what she went through then. Like, so your mum was taken off duty, and then you were obviously brought in, and you got brought in as dead on arrival.
I got brought in dead on arrival, and I was still with it by this time. I was still conscious, and I can remember them working on me, and whoever it was at the time, I'm not sure if he must have been one of the trauma nurses, one of the consultants, whoever it was, but he was leading the team, and he was like, look, you know, we haven't got time to give you any painkiller, so we apologise about that. We've got to put a chest drain in.
Yeah.
So he then started talking about the procedure to me and saying, look, I've got to make an incision in between your ribs, and I've got to wind it open with my little finger and then put the tube in. and it could hurt a bit. We've got to get moving. And I can remember thinking, why are you telling me? Just do it.
Yeah.
And that must have been me subconsciously knowing that, you know,
Life or death.
this is serious. Yeah, because it was only about a minute after that I then died for the first time. So I must have known that was, you know, I was literally at the last moments.
Yeah.
Because I can remember thinking, just get on with it.
Yeah.
There wasn't any fear, you know, but again, that must have been the loss of blood, and you end up getting to a stage where, you know, I don't know, maybe there was a bit of euphoria there in some way.
Yeah.
But I don't ever remember any fear. But yeah, died for the first time then, and they wheeled me off and into surgery.
Yeah.
Resuscitated me, and then died another twice more during surgery.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So what was the surgery? Obviously stitches and that, but obviously you had to work on the lung and that.
Yeah, work on the lung. That to open me up further on my chest here. Got sort of a sizable Mars bar
Really?
across my chest. That's how they knew that it scratched the heart on the way in, and had to do whatever.
So that's very lucky, that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they had to do a fair bit of work on the wounds on top of the sort of near the lower back there, because there was a lot of nerve damage.
Right.
So most of my left leg is still completely numb. Because how they explained it was, if you imagine a piece of electric cable,
Yeah.
and you've got the outside plastic and then the wires inside.
Yeah.
Well, luckily it was just the outside of the nerve that was cut.
Right.
It didn't cut all the way through, but it's still enough that I've got sort of probably about 70% of my left leg that has got sort of no feeling at all.
Really? Do you get pins and needles a lot and stuff like that, or?
It only if I touch it. It's in some places on the front of the shin. If you touch it,
Yeah.
it's got a weird pins and needly sort of feeling.
Really?
Yeah. But if you hit it hard, you can't feel a thing.
Should have gone to Muay Thai or kickboxing or something.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah,
it's all right when you're door kicking, like.
Absolutely. There's the positive.
Always a positive. So, so when you come out of the hospital, obviously you were in there for some time. Did you have to go through some sort of rehab, or obviously walking and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, it took a while for the leg to heal back up again, and to get movement of my arm.
Yeah.
I had a bit of rehab in the hospital before leaving, and they sort of gave me a plan to work towards at home. But the aftercare was very limited.
Really?
Yeah, looking back on it. And the main thing really that was limited was the mental health side of things. And I'm not sure, I may have been offered it once, but being a teenager, sort of, you know, trying to be a man,
yeah.
It's like, oh, I don't need that.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't have stopped there. It should have, you know, I don't remember any persistence in regards to you need to talk to someone, or we need to have someone talk to you.
Yeah.
Because I was given no tools, no information in regards to how I was going to feel, or the potential sort of feelings that I was going to have.
Yeah.
Because I can remember going out once I'd healed up and was, you know, able to walk on the leg again. Going out for the first time on my own to go down to my mate's house and getting on the bus. You know, the experience of fear, because I thought that there was people behind me that were going to, you know, come up and stab me. Yeah. Was so real. I could taste the blood again in my mouth. I had like a metallic feeling in my mouth.
Was it like a flashback sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of anxiety, I can imagine, as well.
100%. Yeah, really, really intense.
And you were 15 at the time? 15
at the time, and had to deal with that. And that went on for quite a few years, and didn't have any help for it at all. You know,
that's like the military. When you leave the military, you get offered once, and then that's it. It's not like, right, we want to do an assessment with you. You mean that should have been, especially at that age, you young lads. You mean that could affect the rest of your life.
Well, it did, yeah.
Well, that's it. You mean, do you still have thoughts now? So when you leave the house, obviously you've gone and done a lot more, but do you still ever have those thoughts? Who's looking over your shoulder?
Yeah, it never leaves you. But I managed to deal with it, and in a way, I think it gave me some strength
Yeah,
dealing with it on my own. But because I didn't know what was happening or what was going on, or I
yeah,
didn't really know the weight of what it was that I was dealing with.
yeah,
So it kind of got parked somehow. I found a way of it getting parked, and it didn't really start surfacing again until I was in my first contact in the military.
really.
And it all of a sudden, I had this feeling that we were surrounded, and I really had to get. Well, we kind of was, to be fair, but I really had to get a grip of myself.
Yeah,
Um, and it's ever since then, really, that things started catching up with me. I didn't quite put my finger on it at the time,
yeah,
but once I left the military, I then started getting a sense of, right, is the previous trauma now combining with the stresses that I've had in my military career?
yeah,
And that's kind of where I've been, in recent times,
yeah.
last year and the year before. So, in recent years, it's been particularly tough. And I think it was one of the biggest contributions to that was not dealing with a major trauma.
Yeah.
And
Well, it
it's as
is. Yeah,
simple as that. Yeah, just
yeah,
not talking about it. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but,
yeah.
you know, regardless of if I was 15 years old or not,
I don't think age
talking,
matters.
it doesn't.
Doesn't. It
It
really
doesn't.
doesn't. Right.
And, I'm a living, walking example of if you hold things back, don't talk about them,
Yeah.
they come up and explode.
But the thing is like with lads and girls getting out the military and they hold things in for the whole military career, which I did. When you come out, you normally start to process stuff, or you break, and you have to break to then realize that you need to process it, and then you need to work through stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of a big problem is bottling stuff up. But you had that before you even went in the military. Do you think dealing with that and beating your own mind and beating that what happened there, do you think that pushed you into the military, or would you always plan on going into the military anyway?
Probably a bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, the military's something I've always wanted to do. And, I was one of those kids where it was from day one,
Yeah.
everything was military.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's, at one point I thought it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
But sure enough, it was almost like a calling. Once it got to a stage of my life where the opportunity was, viable, if
Yeah.
you like, then I grabbed it with both arms. So I think, I don't know, it's difficult to say. It's difficult to say, but I would like to think that it was a catalyst,
Yeah.
and it did give, a bit of an inner strength
Yeah.
in some way, albeit it's also the cause of things unraveling, or when things unraveled a couple of years ago for me.
Yeah.
And like I say, my glass was already half full,
Yeah.
if you like, before going into the military. I just didn't know it. I thought I was dealing with things.
Yeah.
So it didn't take much. Even I'd done, 3 SF tours. I think one would have been enough.
Yeah.
My
Yeah,
glass would have been
yeah.
overflowing.
Did you ever tour as a Royal Marine?
No,
No, you just
I didn't.
went
So
straight to SF,
straight to SF, yeah.
straight
Yeah.
into it.
Massive baptism of fire. So that was that first contact I was referring to.
Really?
That
Was that Afghanistan? Was it?
that was in Afghan, yeah. So the first time round started flying, I was effectively a civvy still, really.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was trained.
Yeah.
And you could say that I was highly trained, and I was.
Yeah.
But I hadn't had any combat experience.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you've got to start somewhere, I suppose. So,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But because it was an SF job, there is a bit more expected of you, in a way, and it was a difficult time. It was, But you know, obviously, I got through it, and you learn on the job.
Oh yeah, very quickly, very quickly.
Yeah, yeah. But it was looking back on it now. It's no wonder that I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I was taking too much on, you know, and it's funny because you can look at some people, and you know when you see things, these motivational things, and these role models that say that they're strong because they've been through this and been through that. I wonder sometimes, because if that was true all of the time, I'd be Superman, but I'm not.
Going back, it's like you talked at the beginning about mindset and going through stuff, and you say you're not Superman, and it's down to that person. You know what I mean? So you're saying you're not Superman, but you've done things, big things, and got through a lot of things. So to some people, a lot of people, to me including, you are, because you've gone through so much. Even before you've got into the military, you've gone through so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, for you to go through all that, and then it's quite humbling actually to you say, "Oh, I'm not Superman." You know what I mean? You are to a lot of people. I know there's a lot of people that have been messaging me saying, "Oh, when's he coming on? When's he coming on?" And they're all proper excited about it. You know what I mean? So, it's that is very humbling. That, you know what I mean? Because you got a lot of, you get, like you say, you get a lot of motivational speakers and stuff like that have done SF or they've gone down stuff like that, and they're like writing books, getting on stage, talking about where they've been, what they're doing, and stuff like that. Would that ever cross your mind to do anything like that? Because you're not like out there, if you know what I mean. You're not like living on social media or anything like that. You sort of like keep everything to yourself, and apart from your brand, which we'll touch on later, but you just sort of keep it all back.
Yeah. I suppose it is a bit of a choice. I've had an offer in the past with TV stuff, but I got the sense straight away that they wanted me to sort of go into details with stuff. You know, on the interview that I had, they were like, "Oh, so what stories have you got? What detail? You know, how many have you got? What can you say?" And I could tell by the change in their demeanour and the change of the atmosphere as soon as I said, "I've got lots of stories, but there's not that many that I'm comfortable talking about." So that might have something to do with it, but as far as the motivational stuff's concerned, it might happen. I'll never say never. I think that's a slightly different thing if you're engaged or employed to give a talk to a corporate entity, which could in turn help them through your experiences that then is relatable or transferable to the business world, which I know for a fact is true. Then I could see that happening. It's as much as I feel that I've had to give a lot in the things that I've done, and it has affected me, which hence why I say I don't feel like Superman, because I've done some pretty gnarly stuff, but I feel that I've really paid for that, and I'm actually still in the process now of building myself back up, believe it or not. And when I'm sure I know for a fact you know what that is. But I can still wholeheartedly sort of talk someone through what it takes to succeed. I know what it takes to succeed.
In a business perspective, or
in anything, not
general?
just in general, because you can transfer that stuff to business.
Well, I think that if you look out there nowadays, the amount of veteran-owned companies is massive. Everyone that comes out of the military go, right, I'm going to build this, I'm going to start that, and it's refreshing to see that so many people use that mindset and that ethos to go and create something more. You know what I mean, and carry on.
Absolutely.
I love seeing stuff like that, and like I say, with your brand, you know what I mean. But with your brand, if you touch on that, what gave you that idea to start SF1?
So the idea came about by chance. So it was whilst I was doing maritime. So when I first left the military, I went straight into maritime operations. The maritime security. And again, I kind of got collared as soon as I walked out the gates. a former SBS guy started a maritime security business. So he was keeping an eye on blokes that were leaving. So effectively, as soon as I walked out the gates, the phone was ringing.
Yeah.
And he said, "Look, do you want a 6-month contract for X amount a day?" And I thought, brilliant. You know, gives a bit of money in the bank while I'm deciding what to do.
Yeah, yeah. Did you have a wife here, or did you have a family then when you come out?
I did, yeah. So I had the wife, and I had Riley, who was, you know, only a couple of years old by then.
Yeah.
So I had a family and kids at the time. So I really sort of needed to make sure that there was a plan in place, or at least something in the works. So that was the idea, you know. Say yes to the security stuff, but I knew that it there's no security in security, as they say.
Yeah.
You know, you can't, unless you're really going to go at it and maybe try and sort of, you know, start your own company, which didn't really interest me. I wanted to kind of move away from the military stuff, if that made sense. But anyway, I took that on. I thought it's good for the money, and it'll give me a chance to figure out what I want to do. And business is what I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
So my mind was open. I was just actively looking for ideas. I wasn't really fussed what it was as such, as long as it wasn't too close to military.
Yeah.
And I was just keeping my mind open. So it was whilst on maritime operations that I got into using the TRX, the suspension trainers, the Olympic rings.
Because obviously it's quite restricted on a boat, like.
Exactly, yeah. So you know, and you've got lots of stuff that you can hang it off of, like railings and underneath stairs and the metal bars that are on ships all over the place. So there was loads of places to sort of hang it up. But I didn't have one myself. I was relying on one of the team members.
Yeah.
Who would generally, 9 times out of 10, they'd either have the TRX or the Olympic rings.
Yeah.
But there was one, so I was getting into it, but there was one time when no one had one.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, so what do I do now? So I looked around for a bit of decking rope, which I found.
Yeah.
And just made one myself. I've got some sort of plastic tube, made some handles.
Yeah.
Tied the rope through it, and just made a crude suspension trainer.
That's brilliant.
And that's where believe it or not, that's where the idea came from. Because if you imagine you've got the plastic handles, they're using them like rings or a TRX, and the rope was going up for them to be hung up. But the excess rope on the bottom of the handles was going to the floor. So I thought, well, if I tie a knot in the bottom of that rope, I can then jump down and do suspended press-ups.
Yeah.
So the idea of what you see now with the SF1, where
it's got three down.
Yeah. You basically the handles are movable.
Yeah.
So we've got those patent granted in the UK and in the States.
Yeah.
And they self-lock and move up and down on the strap wherever you want. So that idea came from that bit of rope and plastic handles.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. See, stuff like that, you'd think that you'd sit in like a room and plan it, but to actually do it. I remember when we were in the gyms, the makeshift gyms in like Iraq and Afghan. It's just a dust bowl.
Yeah,
and like half the dumbbells there were from like the gym back in camp. They've just been brought out, or they're like a block of wood with like, you know, a bar with like bits of wood just whacked on the end of it. You're using it as like to curl and stuff like that. The punch bag was about 90% black and nasty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And full of gravel. It's like basically punching Hessian. You know what I mean? The sandbags. It was horrible.
Yeah, it's improvising, isn't it?
That's it. I mean,
that's exactly how the idea came. It was, you know, just improvising because I didn't have the kit that I was used to having, and it just sparked an idea because I'd done a workout, or the first workout I'd done on this bit of rope with plastic handles was actually a better workout than I'd had on a TRX or the rings. So I kind of stood back and thought, right, okay, that was a good workout. There could be something here, but
Yeah,
I can't sort of take a rope with plastic handles to market. And just set my mind to it, and thought, right, it's got to be something a bit more user friendly,
yeah,
something that's got a bit more sort of uniqueness to it.
yeah.
And yeah, the rest is history.
That's absolutely brilliant. We got a beginning of lockdown last year. We got some of those TRX bands,
Yeah,
trying them out, and I'm not slating anything, but the way it all like attaches, I couldn't get to grips with it. Like my missus was using it and whatever, like, but I put it on the back door of the house, like PVC door frame and all that. So I'm sat there and I'm trying to do like squats, like leaning back sort of thing. I don't know what the hell I was doing with it. I'm used to dumbbells, you know what I mean? I'm pretty old school, but I'm trying to, the thing come off the door, crack the door, come off the door. I went flying back into the kids' climbing frame. But fuck that.
Jesus.
So, but it slipped because where it attaches, it's got like a quick release that hadn't bit in properly.
Right.
So it slipped.
Yeah.
So I sort of went like that, and then it's the where it's hit, it's jolted off the door, cracked me door frame, and I've gone AWOL into the back garden.
Wow.
So I thought, right, I'm just sticking
Yeah.
to the kettlebell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm definitely gonna get some, like, I'm getting to get involved. So what was the process from there then? So you finish your 6 months maritime, you come home, and then did you hit the drawing board and did redesign it, or did you have people to help you, or?
Yeah, well, so I'm not even quite sure how I went from a piece of plastic tube as a handle
Yeah.
to what we've got now, which is effectively, like I say, got, a patent granted on it.
Yeah.
Self-locking mechanisms on the end of the handle that, you can
Slide up and
slide up and down as you want.
That's quite clever, that.
How it came about was the maritime shifts actually helped, because at night when you're out on the bridge wing and you're looking around, and looking out for lights for, potential pirate attacks.
Yeah.
If it's just black, you can kind of go into your own world.
Yeah.
And it gives you some good thinking time, which which I'm a bit reluctant to say in some way, because it's like, well, you're supposed to be looking for pirates, but multitasking. But
We won't say the company you work for.
but it gives you time to think. And when you're not on duty, there's, other than doing exercise, there's not really much else for you to do in your room. So, if you take plenty of books, you've got your laptop with lots of films on. Well, I thought, if I'm working on something, then it's the time's better spent than just sitting there watching film after film after film.
Oh, you're paid to create.
Exactly, yeah. So I just set my mind to it, and it's amazing what you can come up with when there's no distractions.
Yeah.
And that's, like I say, I somehow I came up with the idea that if that handle could move up and down, and then it just progressed from there.
Yeah.
And it's turned into what it is now. The handles can come off of the straps, so you can take them off and add them.
Yeah.
So eventually, what we'll have is an entry level SF1 that will be supplied with one handle, or two handles, but one on each strap.
Yeah.
And you can then add handles to them as you go along. But just that ability there, makes it stand out from others.
Massively.
Yeah.
And with it being, well, the name, it says it all, SF1. You know what I mean? Do you have a lot of SF lads, serving and veterans that are getting involved that want to use it?
Well, yeah. So we've already sold 100 units to the Battle Ready 360 guys, which is Foxy and Ollie.
Yeah, is that the battle box?
The battle box,
battle box, yeah. It's like it's got the wheel and everything in it, isn't it?
It has, yeah. Which I'm nothing to do with. That's all Foxy and Ollie's piece of kit. I don't get involved in any of that.
Yeah.
The SF1 is what my offering is.
Yeah.
And it's effectively, we haven't partnered up. There was a time where that was on the table.
Yeah.
But I want the SF1 to stand on its own feet.
Yeah.
I don't want it to sort of, get swallowed up potentially by bigger personalities, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
So I want to, you know, get traction myself, get the SF1 to be known for the SF1,
yeah,
and not for getting a leg up by other people who are already more well established.
yeah,
I know in business that, you know, getting a product promoted by other people with big reach,
yeah,
you know, other celebrities, this, that, and the other, that's fine.
yeah.
But I don't want it to be. It could be easily mistaken for that's part of
Yeah, yeah.
the battle box and part of Foxy
Would
and
you include them
creation.
in your videos or promotional videos and stuff like that to get that leg up a little bit, or
Probably not, no.
in case it gets mistaken for theirs, sort of thing?
Exactly, yeah. But Foxy's already said, and we've got plenty of pictures and video footage of Foxy using it. And if, well, you know, you go on to the Battle Ready and the Battle Box website,
Yeah,
you know, it's being heavily promoted by them anyway as part of the Battle Box.
yeah,
But that was almost a soft launch, if you like.
yeah.
So those 100 sets that they
Sort of
had,
test the market, if you like.
yeah, it tested the market. Even
Yeah.
it was a fully tested and fully produced product, but it was some of the elements of it was sourced from China,
Right.
even though it was fully QC'd by
In
ourselves.
the UK, yeah.
The handles themselves were built in the UK, and that's the main part of the product.
Yeah.
But there was the other elements, the strap-in and the bag and so on and so forth, that was sourced and made in China. The launch that's coming now in the next couple of months is going to be a promotional launch that I'm working on.
Yeah.
And it's this time it's fully made in the UK. It's 100% made in the UK.
Right.
So there's been a bit of a delay. I know there's been quite a few people that have signed up their interest on the SF1 website. And the first ones that have done it are probably thinking, well, what's going on? It's been quite a while now.
Yeah.
But the delay has been moving the production into the UK. It's took quite a while to find somewhere that could do it for, you know, to make it viable, basically, and to do it within the margins.
Yeah.
So we've done that now, and it's going to be a promotional launch of 500 sets, and the majority of the proceeds are going to go towards the SBSA charity. So that's the SBS, the Special Boat Service Association, which is the charity arm of the SBS.
Yeah.
They effectively saved my life, because when I eventually reached out for help, they were there.
It's amazing.
There's still, you know, guys that have been injured way beyond repair that need constant care. You know, they pay for that.
Yeah.
And you know, they are lifesavers effectively.
Brilliant.
So for the first promotional run that I'm doing, the first 500 sets, and the majority of the proceeds are going to go to the SBSA charity.
Brilliant. What I'll do is I'll put a description for them. Link for them in the description for this as well, and we'll put a post up on that for it as well, so we can get some traction for you. But yeah, so the SF1, are you going to target camps, military camps, so serving?
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
going to be a huge market because you could involve that within PT sessions. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You know, in circuits, hit training, and stuff like that.
Yep. I think that's the easy win for us, if you like.
Yeah.
Because the relation's there.
Yeah.
And we've got the contacts. We can quite easily get them into, you know, as many military establishments as we can. And you know, even without the contacts and the connections, it's still a perfect bit of kit.
Yeah, it's something that's well, as long as it gets its traction, which it will, that thing will fly off the shelves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's been, you know, designed, and it came about through necessity.
Yeah.
So it was an invention born through necessity.
Yeah.
And the necessity was to be able to train as effectively as possible and as much as possible in a limited amount of space.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, it's equally at home hanging from a pull-up bar in the gym as it is in someone's bag to take away with them and to hang off the back of a door. Yeah. Or wherever they can find to hang it from, if they're sort of on operations, or if it's a businessman, you know,
On the road.
On the road.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's perfect for that. But I'm also wanting to take it down the sporting route as well, because it's you know, for MMA fighters, boxers, you know, any athletes, any sporting person can get really good use out of this, because
definitely.
it's got the calisthenics side of it as well.
Right.
So unlike the Olympic rings where you can really swing around on them, there is an element of having to be a bit more strict and a bit more sort of disciplined on this, which forces you to do the moves properly.
Yeah. You can't cheat rep then.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's the bodybuilding, what you call it, bodybuilding side out of it then.
Well, but do you know what? I think there's we've had a couple of bodybuilders use it.
Really?
And they've loved it because of being able to use it as either warm-up sets or burn-off sets.
Yeah.
So with the handles, because you know you can effectively put as many handles on as you want.
Yeah.
But the top tier model that we're selling currently is 3 handles on each side.
Right.
So that's sort of like the optimum. But because you can move them wherever you want, you can layer them sort of say at the lower end of the strap.
Yeah.
Put a gap, however much you want, in between each handle, and create almost like a ladder. So then you can do a drop set, if you like. Because the higher the handle is, the easier the rep is if you're doing press ups.
Like an incline press up, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So you could start off at the bottom where it's harder.
Yeah.
You know, bang out some reps and then move up to the next handle. So it is effectively like doing drop sets.
Yeah.
So, you know, the weightlifting world could also, you know, see some use in this. Yeah, definitely. It's early days and it's still yet to really get tested in all areas.
Yeah.
But so far so good.
Brilliant. And that's 500 sets you're bringing out. Is that going to be what, about May time?
Yeah, there isn't an exact date yet. We still need to get the e-commerce side of the website up and running. Yeah. But it's a summer launch. Yeah.
And I'll keep an eye out for that, and I'll get that out for you, post out for you.
Brilliant.
We've got a lot of, I won't say fans, super fans, but a lot of people that follow the channel that are all giddy about me having a SF on, you know what I mean? Having the Elite on, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of questions going, ask them this, ask them that. A lot of people want to ask you questions about your first operation, about what you felt, obviously, as SF.
Yep.
And a lot of lads are asking about the difference between, you know, deploying as a regular, if that makes sense, and deploying as SF, how you get there and what you do and your feelings. So what I want to ask is, what was your feelings when you did go as SF on a tour? Because obviously it's a lot more close and personal, if you like. Whereas with when we went out to Afghan, it was long range combat. It come close sometimes up to like 200 meters, but it wasn't operations as in we were like doing like big close combat, you know what I mean, or going in alphas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Obviously SF is a lot different. What was your feelings on your first operation?
Shitting myself.
Yeah. Honesty is the best policy.
Absolutely cacking my pants. Excited as well.
Yeah.
And you kind of, once you're in a situation, you've got to deal with it, really, haven't you? It's the fight or flight. And you need to make a decision. And sometimes it can be ego that pushes you into finding out what it is that you can handle. It's not necessarily thinking, you know, have I got the guts or not? Have I got the minerals, if you like? Sometimes it happens because you think to yourself, well, I'm here now, and, you know, I'd rather get something happen than turn around and run. I wouldn't be able to live with myself. You know, so it's weird how what the circumstances are and what goes through your head during the process of you finding out what it is that you can handle and how much is it bravery? I don't know. You know, for example, the first time of we're stacking up outside a compound, we was already getting
In Afghan.
in Afghan,
Yep.
yeah, we're already getting income from one of the sentries.
Yeah.
You know, letting off praying and spraying his AK down through the alleyway.
Praying and spraying.
Yeah,
I love that.
literally. I don't think there was any real sort of technique that he was using.
Cow's ass banjo, innit?
Exactly.
Scenario.
Yeah. There's a lot of rounds coming down, and the call we'd already had. You know, one of the guys go around the corner, committed. So that's it.
Yeah.
You know, one out, all out.
Yeah.
So as we was going round into the alleyway, I was kind of, what was going through my head at a million miles an hour is that this is it. It's actually happening now. I'm about to go round the corner. I'm about to have bullets flying towards me. You know, all of those things are going through your head, and it's probably slower.
Yeah.
In your memory than what it's all happening in milliseconds, isn't it? At the time. So it's it must be different for different people, but I was probably fearful of if I was going to be able to produce the goods as well.
I think that is you got a lot of pressure, even with me as a regular. The pressure there was like, no, I've got to perform. I'm a new lad. I mean, I'm new. I'm in Iraq. I've got to perform. I was more bothered about not fucking up and getting filled in by the lads. Yeah. Getting called a crow. Yeah. Than I was actually going into a firefight, and it's bizarre. That is a bizarre thing. It's like I'd rather get filled in. No, I'd rather get shot than get filled in by these lot. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. You like that at all, or especially the pressure of being SF as well. You know what I mean? It's like.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you do all of the rehearsals, you know, before the job, depending on what the job is. You know, you get you mind tape it out on the floor and try and sort of rehearse as much as possible. You know, depending on what team you're in, what approach you take into the compound. Yeah. But if it's your first time, then there's no amount of training gonna sort of, you know, take that fear of ballsing up away. So yeah, absolutely, yeah, it's exactly the same. That was the biggest fear. You've got a certain amount of help, so you've got the MVGs and the PEC 2 laser. Yeah. So it's effectively, you know, you can see your laser through your MVGs, and wherever that's pointed onto, you pull the trigger. Yeah. But you know, you try and do that when your mind's going a million miles an hour and you're trying to dodge bullets at the same time and keep it steady. You know, you're still thinking, even though it's probably easier than actually having to sort of, you know, look through iron sights or whatever else. You still, you know, you still have that fear there.
Yeah, well, in Afghan we were using battle sights, so it was like a quick sight, you know, for like CQB and stuff like that. So it made it 10 times easier again because it was all like dead close. You know what I mean? But it was just I don't think it matters what your kit is. It's down to the person. You know what I mean? It's like you said about iron sights and dreadful things. Well, we had them when we were in Belize in the jungle, and the 4-point relationship just goes out the window because it's just, you know what I mean. But I found that with Afghan and like I said, the contacts were all long range, and it was people like coming through murder holes, quick burst, and then they're moving on. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like Gary Green says, it was more armed guard, if you like. We just like show force on the ground and stuff like that. Operations with SF is very different to regular. You're not doing stuff like that really. You're doing more. You've got a job. You've got an operation. You go and do the job, and then you come back out. Yeah. How often are the jobs? These are questions that I've been asked to ask you, if that makes sense. How often are those jobs? Without giving out, obviously you can't give away too much, but
they were fairly often. You've still got the element of on the bus, off the bus. Yeah. So you'd get to the pad, you on the back of the helo, and then all of a sudden you'd hear the rotor stop, like the engines turn off, and it's like that's, you know,
been
cancelled. So that would happen quite a lot. Yeah. But you know, certainly the free tours that I done was during the heyday of Afghan.
Yeah.
So there was, you know, plenty of jobs going on.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, you'd a lot of jobs you'd be getting dropped off, sort of, you know, far enough away from the helos, and then walking in so that you could try and sneak in. Never, hardly ever happened. They'd always sort of know that you're coming.
Yeah.
But it was hard work. Yeah, if you're walking in, if you're doing a sort of 10-15K walking towards the job, depending on what you was carrying, full battle order, you might be carrying the ladders as well, so that you put the ladders up on the compounds to, you know, for the wall snipers to secure it as the lads are stacking up. You know, it was reasonably hard work, and certainly if you had to get there and then get on your toes with any sort of break contact drills, and sort of move back and let the air sort of sort things out before you then sweep back through. As you know yourself, once the adrenaline's pumping,
that's it. Yeah,
it can be fairly hard work.
But
I would say, knowing the other side of it as well, in some sense, I could say it's a balancing act, because there's some things that we experience, like you say, because you're literally you're out there walking through villages, walking through compounds to get to the compound you need to get to. It's dodgy stuff. And at any moment there could have been someone that popped out of a door that was literally, you know, an arm's length away from you. And you are going in to the rooms, and you're having contacts in the rooms in these compounds. So that side of it is tasty. But knowing the other side of, you know, working with the Marines, working with the paras, working with the rifles,
green jackets.
Was it? I mean, I'm not sure. I think I might have, actually, because there was the Scots Guards as well that worked with. There's various different guys that I helped out from time to time. It was a couple of times in Sangin, in PB1, PB2.
Well, we had a few lads drop in to Jackson. When we were there. And then they supported us up in Wishton as well, around that area. And
it was hardcore for you guys, you know. So even though we were doing some tasty stuff like that, and you know, sometimes we'd be in the same, like I say, you know, having contacts in a room. You know, we'd then go back and be in relative comfort in certainly where I was in CAF. You know, the accommodation that we had, in the early days it was tense, but you know, it was still.
Was that American, was it?
What's that?
Did the American take over that camp?
I think they did, you know. I think they did.
We had we were in the FOB, we were in Jackson, but we had a few lads down in Bastion as well. The bit they were in, that was taken over by Americans, and it just went Gucci. Proper Gucci. But the same as when we were in Telic 9 in the Palace. We were in the Palace, it was just the four walls. It was all brassed up from, like, you know, from the early days. And it was like, we were in Saddam's bathroom, shower room. And this shower room was the size of my house. I don't know how big the fella was, like, but it was literally the size. And he had a walkout balcony and everything, and, like, that looked over the whole of, like, down the Chateau Arab and all that, you know, down the river and that. And I was like, this is just, and then on the same camp on the other side, it was like Hessian all makeshift and all that, but it was just like the Americans were in there, and it was all Gucci, and they had like a bar and all this, and that's another story. We got we all snuck over there and had a few drinks, and then they used to have the little golf buggies, you know, bouncing around. My old CEO was going to watch this and go, "Wait, shit!" But they used to have old golf buggies, and it was the day before my birthday, and our sergeant goes, "Right, go over there," and he gave us a 2-can rule. Like that. We went into this, like, they had like a little bar. It's really weird. It's surreal. We're out in the middle of Iraq. And there's this little bar, makeshift bar. Went in there, and there's a few Americans in there or whatever. So we're like playing cards with them, a few drinks. And I don't know, people will probably comment and say, tell me what really happened. But all I remember is we stole a thingy. We stole one of these golf buggies because we couldn't be bothered walking back. I won't mind, but we were tooled up as well. We had our rifles on us. And I'm sure it rolled into one of the ditches. And then the next day, we got sent down to not the OSB, not the old state building, the PJOC. It was like a prison cell, block of cells there, and we were put on the roof on the LMG all day in the heat. Hungover. In like, it was a winter tour, but still, it was absolutely red as, you know what I mean? And I was like, that was one of the worst times of my life. And I remember getting down, one of the Kingos was there, and he goes, do you want a neck banjo? I was like, yeah, go on. It's just a bizarre time, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you do have some surreal moments.
But that wasn't too bad with the Palace, because you go back to the Palace and it was an element of comfort there, you know what I mean? You had the cookhouse, you had beds and stuff like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But with Sangin, it was a dust bowl, you know what I mean? It was a cot bed.
With some of them PBs, you know, the conditions that the lads were, you know, enduring was, it made me, it sort of, my respect went out to them massively, you know, and the couple of jobs that I went down there to help with, you know, I was really, really happy to do.
Yeah.
Albeit one of the jobs is probably what's a cause of one of the biggest causes of my stress. It was helping out because the guys were getting smashed. They'd lost quite a few guys with the IEDs. The week before we went down, their lead Valina, so their lead for those, so, you know, for those watching that don't know, it's basically a metal detector where one of the lead guys would be checking in front of them for improvised explosive devices. And he was a young lad, probably sort of, you know, 19, 20 years old, and he got blown up just before we came, and his replacement was another young lad. And before we went out the gates one night, we asked where he was, and he was in the heads in the toilets, being sick with nerves before coming out. Anyway, the job was they'd identified a group that was going around checking the IEDs. So we went, there was only me and two other guys, and the two other guys were from SRR. So I was the only SB guy there, and I had quite a lot on my shoulders because I was controlling. We managed to get an asset. We managed to get an asset that wasn't up above us, but on call. So if anything did happen, then I could have got some air cover. But it would have took a little while to come. So I had that. Plus, I was acting as a sniper as well, and we'd identified a disused compound. In the middle of Sangin, which had IEDs all around it. So we had to pick our way through the IEDs one night, get into this disused compound, which we were hoping was disused. It was only because they were keeping eyes on it for a couple of weeks leading up to it. Sure enough, it was disused. But during the daytime, hiding in there and having, you know, people milling around outside and listening to people walk past and all the rest of it, it was stressful. But what we basically done is that compound was identified because it overlooked an area that we knew they were coming and checking the IEDs. So I made a murder hole in the wall on that side that was overlooking that area, and basically just kept eyes on and waited for the day for them to come and check. And then I engaged them. Once that had happened, we then had to bug out. So it was then picking our way back through the IEDs, back to the PB, with, you know, guys following us up. So it was probably the most SF thing that I'd done.
Probably very stressful as well.
100%
Those IEDs, it's people that haven't been there and seen it. It's, your arse is clenched constantly. I mean, it's like, and I say that in a joking manner, but when you go out on the ground from the first patrol to the last patrol when you're on tour, you don't know where they are. And you can be there for 6 months and you're still getting banged by them. You know what I mean?
it's scary enough when you know where they are, because there was one the night before they'd left an IR asylum by one that they'd identified. So stepping over that, even though you know it's there, you're still clenching massively.
Yeah.
You know, just going near the fuckers.
Yeah, absolutely disgusting. They'd pull them out the ground, and they're like cooking pots, all taped up, rammed, full of it. You're like, and that's why I think a lot of lads nowadays are going through stress, because of, not because obviously you see stuff and they go off next year, and most people I know have been blown up at some extent, you know what I mean? But it's the actual living with that afterwards, going, what if I stepped that closer? What if I went that way? And there's always that what if, and it's easy to go, well, you don't think like that. Well, it's easy to say that, but even to this day, you go, well, what if? Because we had one, and it rained that night, funny enough, and it was a mound, and basically what happened was, when we walked past it, it went off, because it sank backwards into like when because it was like it was piled in clay. The explosion went up, but it still took us off our feet.
Yeah.
But I think to myself, well, what if that never have happened?
Oh,
you know what I mean? It's like it's always on your mind, and I think that's a stress that a lot of the lads and girls take.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know,
massively.
you laugh at it at the time, because I lost count of the amount of times you'd get back to camp after jobs, and you'd look at each other and just start laughing, and you say, how the fuck did we get away with that?
Yeah.
You know, you're looking at lads running from one position to another through your MVGs, and you can see the tracer rounds going through their legs, like as they're running. Yeah. And it's like, how did you not get shot?
Exactly. You know what I mean? We've had there's been times like in Iraq when we were on Bulldogs on the APCs, and we were like driving through, and it's like basically we've been hitting a 360 ambush. We fought our way out of it, and we're like hammering down this road, obviously extracting, and the fella, the driver behind our wagon was filming, and there's pictures of me where we're just suppressing, just putting sporadic fire down there just to get ourselves out of there, and you can see and hear the pings off the top cover around me, around Jonah, who's on the rifle, just banging off, and we're like, wow. And we were being sprayed by 7.62. We're like, how the hell how do you do that? And we get back to camp, and he goes, look at that. Back to the palace, he goes, look at that. And we're watching it going, we didn't really have proper phones then, it was all cameras and Polaroids at one point, you know what I mean? But yeah, we were looking it back on the camera. You had to wind it back, like, you mean? And it was just like, wow, like that round went past my arm. Like how it's just like, but over time you just accept it, but it's still like, what if, you mean? Well,
it's when the helos land and you think that you've got a 10-15k walk in, but actually bad luck would see that it just so happens that there's guys close, you know, that was there, Taliban that was actually there, so close that the RPGs bounce off of the helo because they hadn't had long enough to arm. Yeah, so it's like 50 meters or 100 meter, whatever it is that it needs. Yeah, or just over 50 meters. So you know, getting shot at with an RPG that close, that it luckily, well, in a sense, you know, it's lucky because it didn't have time to engage. But yeah, you look back on stuff like that, and it's like, Jesus Christ.
I always remember we went on an operation, Operation Panther's Claw, and we went up. It was up in the surrounding mountain range. It obviously got called up Operation Panther's Dick because it was just a dick about, you know what I mean? We had a few contacts. It did get a bit heavy at some points, but we basically were only going up. I think we were going to go up there for a 3-day op. It rolled on to, I think, about 6 or 7 days. Ran out of rations, ran out of food. I remember purely tabbing. We were taking the stream, and I was purely tabbing it. And I think that's what led on to my DMV in a terrible way, like, you know what I mean? We're in basically there's a little tent next to the helipad, and you sat there on a drip, and anytime the heli come in, it just blew dust and sand all over you while you sat there shitting yourself, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
good times. But yeah, we went up there, and as we come in the two Chinooks, we couldn't land because the amount of RPGs and fire that was coming up. And I always remember things hitting the bottom of the helicopter. Yeah. And I sat there like that. And you sort of like pull your knees together, you know what I mean, and go, I'm gonna get shot in the arse here, you know what I mean? And you're just like, if it's tense, I might be able to catch it, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And I remember they dropped us down. First 3 lads went off the back, and the next minute the things went straight up again. Yeah. Another one coming and dropped back down, and the tailgate's doing all that. Yeah. I'm like that. gonna have a little sick here, I think, and then we'll crack on, you know what I mean? And then we all piled out. But it literally, we sat there for about 24 hours when we finished the op. They go, yeah, the heli's coming in. It couldn't come in because the amount of RPGs that were flying up, and we were in a compound. And I always remember because they brought air in and leveled the compound next to us, and it was like, you know, as it's coming in, you can hear it coming in. It's the Americans, and you hear all these blue on blues and stuff. And as it's coming in, you can hear it drop. You go to the lads, looking around, all the lads are sat there like chilled, and in my head, I'm like, this is gonna come in here. This, like, tighten up, put your gun shield in. But yeah,
I think you're right. That is a big cause of some of the stress, because it's like a rubber band, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you stretch it and stretch it and stretch it. Eventually, it's all going to go
Fades,
saggy.
yeah.
You know, so anything that's repetitive like that, it's the same as a muscle. You know, you're basically exercising the ability to be able to deal with stress. Yeah. And it's not going to take long. Well, I say not going to take long. Obviously, everyone's different, but you know, certainly for myself, that's one of the causes for issues that I've had, because that mechanism or that ability has worn out. Yeah. So it's difficult for me to deal with sort of conflict in that way, for want of a better term of explaining it. But I'm much more comfortable just going straight to the fight. Yeah. You know, same, I would rather, you know, stack up outside knowing that there's bad men in a room and go in and deal with it. Yeah. There's nothing in between. Yeah. You know, it's difficult for, so if someone sort of bumped into me, if I was in the street, don't get me wrong, I'm not a I'm not a head case. I don't need to be sort of locked up. I have learned how to deal with it and restrain it. Yeah. But I find it difficult to sort of have that sort of in between calm argument, if you like. Yeah. Because my adrenaline, I'm shaking now as I'm talking about it. My adrenaline is either on or off.
Because it's -2 in here.
Yeah. It's like resistance to interrogation.
I'm sorry to do it like that.
Gripping. But yeah, it's like I'm sure you know this yourself anyway. You know, it's like an on-off switch. Yeah, I'm either calm,
or 100%,
or I'm 100%.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if it's from the military or I've always had a bit of a temper, but when it comes to, I can't sit there and go, oh, a bit angry. It's like that. It's like table through the wall, or I'm driving to their house or something like that, or I'm just sat there going, don't care. You know what I mean?
But not caring is how I've had to deal with it. Yeah, and I quite like that. I would as long as I can stay in peace. It probably is an age thing. Yeah, I don't want to repel madness. If I'm hearing about so and so's dealing with this, dealing with that, it's like no, I can't be bothered.
Yeah, I think having a family as well, that plays a massive part, because it's like, okay, you sort of like, when you've got like a family and you've got kids and stuff, you sort of think first. Yeah. Rather than just going storming straight down there and putting a brick for the window and going berserk, it's like, what could come back to my door? Yeah. So it's sort of like they're getting like, used to have like road rage all the time. Yeah. I mean, I always remember the first time I was going to pick up my girlfriend, who, you know, who's my partner now, and I've been working the doors, just finished work, come home, an hour or two sleep, whatever, showered, in the car, someone cut me up, and I ended up climbing through his window and punching fuck out of him and having murdered, and a van pulled up and he got out and seen it all going off, and then my missus texted me going, oh, are you coming to get me or what? I'm on my way. You know what I mean?
Got him round the throat. I'm on my way.
So, and I always remember it was a Mazda 3, black one. And then, so I went and picked it up. And then we went to Chester Zoo, went out for the day, and had a nice time, you know what I mean? And it was just like, but now if like someone cuts me up, I'm like Shaun will tell you, I'm like yeah, throwing cans of Coke out the window. But it's like, do I go that far? Well, no, you think a bit more. But I think that's military mindset, because military lifestyle, you know, you're always, if you're with the lads, you go out for a drink, someone stares at you, you have a fight, you have a scrap, you know what I mean? But I think as you get older, you sort of rein it in a little bit. Do you find that now you're out and that military side of you is gone, that there's a lot of, do you miss it as such? Do you miss the lads and the operations and stuff like that?
I do,
Is it the same as being a regular, or?
Well, when I was on the laptop last night, sort of looking through some pictures and that to send you, I was looking at some of the old bits of footage that I've got, and there was one that I can't even remember how I got it, but it was on one of the jumping out of the back of a Hercules, and yeah, but it caught some of the sort of banter with us sitting down, talking to each other, shouting at each other, and then sort of getting up and sort of, you know, doing all the hand signals, like 2 minutes and 1 minute, 30 seconds, and then the tail coming down and jumping out. And it's like, I could do that right now. I could easily slip back into that. But it's the same with anything. You remember the good times, and you remember the things that you enjoyed.
But then you remember the bullshit as well.
You forget all the other stuff that goes with it.
I think if you hold on to the bad stuff, that's what ruins it all. You know what I mean? I've learned to do that now with my recovery and stuff. I sort of like step away from, oh, that was bad and that was awful, and I start thinking, oh, I remember this. Like we had my screw when we were in Afghan. He's going to kill me for telling you this. We did an operation. I think it was our last op, end of the tour, and we worked through. It's like an old building, an old compound, but it had like, I think it was an old school or something like that. But we were told that there's weapons there, so we worked through every room. And the very last room, we're all blowing, we're all hanging. You mean? And Ginger's name was, we'll say Ginge, and he put his foot through the door, but he went through the panel, but his foot stuck in the door. The door just swung open with him hanging in it like that, and that was headache 10 for me. I didn't think of anything bad at that time. I just went like that. I went, pass us a camera. Like, I don't know who was in the room, what was going on. I can't remember. I just went, pass us a camera like that, and everyone's stacked up and they're going, wow, pass us a camera. I don't give a shit. Just give me like that. And he just fumed. He had a bad temper on him, like, and that was me then. So even now, like this day, you lose touch with lads. You mean, but I mean, we're still like there on social media, but I always look back and go, when things look bad, or I remember like a memorial for, you know, someone or something, I go, Ginger's got his foot stuck in the door, an idiot. You know what I mean? And that's sort of like, you sort of like look at the better things, don't you, to get through the stress. Yeah,
definitely.
But yeah, it's weird because it's, people say obviously SF is, it's amazing. It's like you got the Gucci ops, you get the Gucci kit and all that. You know what I mean? While we're carrying ECM, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's the same impact on your mental health. Like, it doesn't matter how Gucci the ops are, how good they are. It's like you're still going through that same mental trauma. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because to balance it out, even though we generally, you know, do an op and then come straight back, there is still an element of, you know, when it goes Pete Tong, you're on your own. There was one time in particular, we had to hold up in the compound that we just took, because there was an Iranian sniper that was up in sort of in a high point in one of the sort of higher locations that was overlooking the compound. And so we couldn't get back out. We couldn't extract back out to our pickup point. And we had to wait for AHs to come on the scene to sort of engage. We had to talk the the attack helicopter onto the position that we knew the sniper was at, that was engaging us. And so, you know, that kind of makes you realise that it doesn't matter what assets you've got, you can still quite easily get caught out, as we did there. The gunship had to get taken off for another tick, another contact where it was needed elsewhere. So we didn't really have any top cover at that time. And just as luck has it, we then end up getting engaged by a sniper. Just when we, you know, really needed top cover. So even SF with, you know, all of the assets, 9 times out of 10, you can still get caught out. Or find yourself in those moments where it's like, I really am on my own here. So yeah, it's it can be quite stressful at times when you look back on it. But I don't think I'd change it.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. If I could, I would have stayed in and gone down the SF route. I would have. But you have to look at the positives in life. If I had done, I wouldn't be where I am now. You know what I mean, with what I've got and who I've got. So I have to be thankful for that. You know what I mean, so. But I think we have to cut it there because I'm absolutely freezing.
It's cold, isn't it?
I'm be honest with you.
Starting to get a bit gibbery as
I
well.
seen you like that. I'm like, this guy's SF shitbag.
I've got a hoodie on as well.
I think it's this SF t-shirt that's keeping me warm. I won't show my nipples off, like, you know what I mean. But mate, it's absolutely been a pleasure for
Thank you.
It's been,
thank you
for the
inviting me.
stories. Thank you for travelling up here, and whatever I can help with SF1, let me know, and I'll push it for the future, and all the best for the future, mate.
Yep,
Thank you very
too,
much.
mate.
Thank you.
you.